This video is going to look at diet as part of the animal nutrition topic. And a balanced diet is a diet which contains energy from carbohydrates and lipids, contains protein, mineral ions and vitamins, as well as water. And it contains enough of these, and it doesn't lack in any of them, but it also doesn't exceed the required amounts. It is not enough fat, not too much fat, and there's not enough fat, both of which can be bad. Different people need different nutrients in different amounts. This is because they have a different basal metabolic rate. And the basal metabolic rate is the amount of energy that's required to maintain your body for a day without taking into account any activity at all. So just you lying there, not doing anything, how much energy does your body use? And it's affected by your age. So if you're a child, you need a greater amount of energy per kilogram than you do if you're an adult, for example. It's affected by your gender. Muscle uses more energy than fat. Men generally have a higher muscle percentage, women generally have a higher fat percentage, therefore men need to have a higher basal metabolic rate. It's affected by body composition. Again, the more muscle you have, the higher your basal metabolic rate is. The higher body fat percentage you have, the lower it would be for somebody of the same weight. And it's affected by pregnancy. So obviously a woman who's pregnant will need more energy than a woman who isn't pregnant, because the fetus takes a lot of energy. We often think that malnourishment is undernourishment, but malnourishment isn't just a lack of something, it can be too much of something. So it can cause either a deficiency or an excess of any part of your balanced diet. So coronary heart disease is caused by malnourishment. It is a diet that's too high in saturated fat or too high in cholesterol, too high in salt, can lead towards coronary heart disease. Obesity, again, an excess of energy over and beyond the amount of energy that a person needs, leads to obesity. Constipation, a lack of fiber. Starvation, a lack of energy and food. And then you have deficiency diseases, which include things like scurvy, which are the result of a lack of a particular mineral in your diet or vitamin. Coronary heart disease is a disease of the heart, and it affects the coronary arteries. The coronary arteries are the arteries that supply the heart muscle with the oxygen and glucose it needs to give it energy to keep it contracted. So here we're looking at the artery, one head-on, one side-on, and what happens is that a fatty plaque starts to build up in the artery. And over time this plaque gets larger and larger, and the lumen gets smaller. And as a result, the downstream tissue becomes starved of oxygen, because the red blood cells can no longer pass through the artery, and as a result there's no oxygen coming in, and the tissue is starved of oxygen and starts dying. The blood clot that forms, as well as the fat clot, can shoot loose and cause other issues as well, things like strokes and things if it does shoot loose as well. But the key thing to remember here is that it starves the heart of oxygen. Form of malnourishment is obesity, and obesity is somebody who's obese is described as somebody who has a body mass index of 30 or higher. And you can work out your BMI by dividing your mass in kilograms by your height squared in meters. And a person gains weight and becomes obese if their energy intake exceeds their energy output over a long period of time. BMI has its issues. It doesn't take into account the composition of the body, but for the average body it is a good guideline. It's just for people like bodybuilders. It suggests that they're obese even though they have a very low body fat percentage. Obesity is very much implicated in many medical complications, cancers as well as stroke and coronary heart disease. So heart disease is one of the main ones. High blood pressure or hypertension is also a problem with obesity. Type 2 diabetes, when your body becomes insensitive to the effect of the insulin produced by your pancreas, is something which is heavily associated with obesity. as is arthritis, because the joints have to carry so much more weight. Starvation, sort of the opposite side of the spectrum, was caused by persistently lower energy intake than required. So a person who doesn't get enough energy to maintain his basal metabolic rate, and any activity they might carry out will slowly starve. They will start using up their body tissue to burn off, to get the energy. So the most common form of starvation is protein energy malnutrition, or PEM. Examples are kwashiorkor and marasmus, which are generally found in sub-Saharan Africa, and particularly in children. Then the last kind of area of the malnourishment are deficiencies. And what you need to be aware of that a vitamin C deficiency causes scurvy, which will lead to the skin becoming loose or the connective tissue not working properly. Vitamin D is associated with rickets. Vitamin D is necessary for calcium to be taken up by the bones, and for bones to become hard. So in a growing child, rickets can cause bendy legs. Iron can cause anemia. So you need iron to make hemoglobin. If you don't have enough iron in your diet, then you can't make enough red blood cells. So you become anemic, and you might not get enough oxygen to your body, and you will find people will get tired more easily.